Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on my channel, and today we're talking about Kyle. Because after suffering through the disgusting disaster of a date he had last episode,
you know how I love my back scratches. That's a requirement.
Annie might be at her breaking point with Kyle's excuses and lies.
What? Yes or no? It's not that difficult.
And since we know Kyle likes to go after content creators calling him out, let me just clarify that everything I'm about to say is just my own opinion and interpretation. So let's talk about it. Annie goes to meet up with Kyle for a lunch date that they had planned at this really beautiful location on the stairs. The view is very pretty. Annie got a little dressed up to go out on this nice date today, and Kyle is dressed like a slob. Again. Do you think he tries to look as gross and unattractive as possible, or does it just come naturally to him? Because I know he has to wear shorts for his hobby or whatever, but that doesn't mean you have to look bad. You can dress in a nice pair of shorts and a nice top and still look presentable. You don't have to look like a slob all the time. So Kyle walks up to greet Annie in his customary way of saying that she's sexy.
Hey,
how's it going?
Sexy.
Which really, he does seem to do that every time they see each other. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it does continuously sexualize their relationship and just feels really creepy coming from him. Kyle asks Annie if there's any sugar in her coffee.
What kind of coffee is that?
It's a black coffee.
Did you have sugar in it?
Which, for anyone else maybe, might be an innocent question, but Kyle is asking to see if he has to take any points away from her.
Did you have sugar in it?
No sugar.
That's good.
What a guy. They talk a bit about his hobby, all the vitamins that he has to take, and then we hear something very interesting from Annie. She reveals that she can easily get bored in normal, predictable relationships, whereas Kyle, being the complete weirdo maniac he is at the very least somewhat interesting.
I can get bored easily by normal guys because every day is so predictable, while with a person like Kyle, it's more interesting because you never know what's going to happen the next day.
Which I'm glad she shared, because I think you and I and all of us watching do kind of need some sort of explanation as to why the hell would anyone still be with Kyle at this point. And I think her answer is very telling for that, but we'll get to that later. They finish their lunch and go off to explore the beautiful country of Malta together.
I'm gonna hold your hand because I'm such a gentleman.
I'm gonna hold your hand because I'm such a gentleman. They get in the back of the Jeep and wow, Malta really is beautiful. It's got the mountains and the architecture, the ocean, but instead of being interested in any dumb things like that, Kyle is far more interested in Annie's leg.
You like it?
Yeah. Not as much as I like you. You have a warm leg.
I'm a warm person.
Warm-blooded.
Okay.
Which at first I thought was just another kind of icky comment from him, but then I realized it does make sense that he's surprised by that, because as we know, snakes are cold-blooded. But while they're taking this Jeep ride through Malta, Annie notices something strange with Kyle.
While he's talking to me, I notice Kyle continually touches his balls or his penis. I don't know, I haven't yet figured out what it is.
Stop it. Get some help.
Annie asks Kyle about it, and his answer is that it's just for the heat dissipation, right? If you're a sperm donor, you don't want that area to be too warm.
I don't even wear boxers. I just wear shorts. It's professional.
Which I guess is technically true, but your balls aren't going to get heat stroke if you sit down for 5 minutes. So I'm not entirely certain that's really necessary, even just from the sperm quality perspective. But I also wonder if part of the motivation for him to do this in public is some kind of power or control move, or maybe even to purposefully embarrass her. I got a comment on my last video about Kyle from someone who has, I think, a really strong theory on why Kyle is doing what he's doing. And they theorized that Kyle is essentially trying to be a dom in a dom-sub relationship, but without Annie knowing that or consenting to it. He does the good girl reinforcements, tells her what to eat, what to wear, how to style her hair, how to please him, that she must earn his favor. He is openly coercing her into submission. In my opinion, it's also why he puts such little effort into their date. The sub pleases the dom, so he turns up and dresses in a way to embarrass her, eats in a way to embarrass her, likely smells in a way that is unappealing. He is putting her in a position where she is caught off guard, questioning in her mind what the heck is going on. And seeing her embarrassment would likely be a turn on for him, because she is experiencing that because he created it. He is in control. In my opinion, this is about control and domination. It's just a theory, we don't know exactly what's going on in his head, and he could even be doing all that stuff without being very consciously aware of it. But that is a very strong theory, and a theory I'm going to be keeping in mind while we watch more scenes with him like this, where he's adjusting his junk in public. So the car ride ends, and they get to this beach rock formation thing, when Annie says she needs to brush her hair. And if you happen to be eating anything right now, maybe you should put the fork down just for these next 15 seconds, because if I had to watch this awkward, terrible flirting scene, then you do too.
Well, let me brush it for you.
Yeah, that's
It's nice and slow.
You can do it a little bit more, maybe.
More harder? Harder?
Yeah, I want it harder.
You like it hard?
Definitely.
You like it very hard?
Definitely. This is too soft for me.
Ugh, that's just so uncomfortable to watch. But this is where things get interesting, because after that awkward hairbrushing situation, Annie has something she wants to ask him.
I don't know where I stand right now with you. You were like, oh, look, Annie, I want to find love. Then you started traveling to Australia, but you were not talking with me about it.
Kyle went to Australia for a few weeks last month, and Annie suspects that part of the reason for his visit was so that he could donate to another client through natural insemination. Because, although the two of them haven't actually set concrete boundaries around that kind of behavior, Annie feels like Kyle is being dishonest and not telling her the real reason why he went to Australia. And Kyle immediately starts lying. Kyle's like, oh yeah, that was just a normal fun time, wanted to go have a low-key time. Nothing at all with my hobby that dictates and runs my entire life and my sole meaning for existence. No, nothing like that.
I was going there low key. I was just going there because I really wanted to sightsee. I showed you pictures. You saw a lot of pictures.
But Annie's not having any of it. She asks him point blank, did you have sex with someone in Australia? And this is Kyle's answer.
Okay, so did you have sex with someone in Australia to donate?
I don't know what I did there.
What? I don't know what I did there? This is a simple yes or no answer, dude. You either had sex with someone for your little gig thing or you didn't. You don't know? You're gonna lie and you think a dumbass lie like that is gonna work?
Did you had sex with another woman?
I don't know what I remember.
I don't know what I remember. That's the worst attempt at covering a lie I've ever heard. That's literally a 4-year-old caught with their hand in the cookie jar going, I don't know if I ate the cookies. I don't remember what happened to them. And he hears these pathetic lies and is like, are you effing kidding me?
What? Yes or no? It's not that difficult. If you don't remember, that means yes.
Annie tries convincing Kyle that it's pretty obvious that he's lying right now and that it would be in his best interest if he just admitted it. And eventually, Kyle admits the truth.
Yeah, I had intercourse to get somebody pregnant in Australia.
But he doesn't just admit that he had sex with another woman in Australia. He goes on to explain the circumstances. He says that this person was a single woman who really wanted a kid, and for some weird magical reason, we have no idea why, she felt like the best course of action for her and her odds of fertility was through natural insemination. And gee, I wonder why she has that impression, Kyle.
It was just a single woman and she wanted to get pregnant. She felt like that was the best way to do it.
I know she didn't get that information from actual fertility doctors and experts because that's not what the data says. So I wonder, could it be that she got that idea from all the times you have been publicly telling people that natural insemination has a higher chance of success? Do you think that single lady in Australia who was desperate to have a kid might have believed that natural insemination was the best option for her because you misrepresented the truth and coerced her into sex? You think that might be the case? Nah, that probably isn't the case. I mean, that'd be ridiculous. And this is all completely alleged and happened in Minecraft. And he continues to describe this woman as desperate.
She was desperate.
There is a lot of women who want to get pregnant.
She was very desperate.
Yes. Your favorite kind of victim, isn't it, Kyle? The desperate ones, in my opinion. He goes on to describe that the intercourse that they have is very procedural. It's like a doctor's office. It's very sterile. It's not for pleasure. But Annie interrupts and is like, okay, but you're having sex with another person in our relationship. All this discussion about whether or not he had sex with someone in Australia a month ago, I hope she knows that he just had sex with someone in the UK the day before he flew over to see her. Kyle hears all this from Annie and is freaking out because, as he says, he doesn't know how to react.
My heart is racing right now because I don't know how to react.
I don't know, with honesty? Because unfortunately, Kyle does kind of have a point here. He says that Annie knew fully well what she was getting herself into with Kyle. She knew that he had this hobby and that involved natural insemination. And Annie herself has admitted that she just kind of assumed that once they got into a serious relationship, that he would stop doing that. Which makes it even weirder to me that he would then lie about it. Just be honest. Say that that's what you were in Australia. You were doing your thing, this thing that she knew about the whole time, and it is what it is. And hey, I was also in the UK, and I also banged a girl 2 days before I met you for the first time. You might as well just be honest about it. But even though this conversation may have come 7 months too late, they finally have the conversation where Annie tells him that, okay, if we're going to be in a serious relationship, that can't keep happening.
Okay, we all want to be in a serious relationship. I cannot do this, If you want this to work out with us, you have to just stop it now,
She draws that boundary, says she's hurt, and that she needs some time to process all of this new information. And unfortunately, as much as I'd like to make this video entirely about how bad, dumb, and abusive Kyle is, in my opinion, Annie does have some responsibility in all this. It's generally unwise to knowingly start a relationship with someone that has some kind of known problem, some known characteristic that you don't like, assuming that things will just magically change for the better.
Annie knew what she was getting into when she contacted me. Like, she knew what I was about, and I've never told her I stopped donating.
But on the other hand, remember that thing she said earlier where she would be too bored in normal, non-confrontational relationships? That is a very real thing, and it really sucks for the people that have that kind of dynamic. This is also where a lot of that nice guys finish last rhetoric comes in, because you have the nice guy who is just a good person, pretty loving, healthy attachment. But oftentimes, maybe the girl that he's interested in may have had a bad father figure, where in their household there was a lot of chaos, a lot of fighting and anger, and because that was the norm for the child, the girl then grows up feeling and associating that kind of inter-family chaos, confusion, uncertainty, maybe a little bit of malice or violence, whatever that is, all that becomes then associated with love in their mind. And then that individual goes out into the world, meets this nice guy who may not have a lot of those bad tendencies that she's used to, and thinks like, well, this is boring. Yeah, he's nice, but this isn't exciting. This doesn't feel like love to me, because love to me is chaotic and turbulent and maybe even abusive and not very healthy. Now, that theory describes a lot of people and actually used to partially describe me as well. I had a little bit of that as well in my early 20s that I have since corrected for. But although that theory applies to a lot of people, I don't know that necessarily applies to Annie. But it might. Kyle, on the other hand,
donating sperm does make it hard for people to accept me and be in a relationship with me.
Yeah, maybe that's a part of it, but I think you do a good enough job on your own making it hard for people to be with you. Yeah, donating sperm is weird, but I don't think that comes anywhere near describing how weird, uncomfortable, and unfit for a relationship you are, Kyle.
Donating sperm is the most important thing in my life. And it's just difficult that she can't accept a core part of who I am.
Okay, but why? Why is that the most important thing in your life? It shouldn't be. And Kyle, if you're gonna make up some BS excuse like, well, it's just my lifestyle now, and I'm just so used to and accustomed to seeing all these happy families, I just need to see the smiles on their faces after I do this, then why do you have to have sex with them? Couldn't you achieve these same nice, pure, wholesome, altruistic motivations you claim you have by just jacking off into a cup? Because I got a few comments on the first video I made about Kyle a few weeks ago, which just hit 100,000 views, by the way, so wow, thank you everyone for supporting that video so much. But that video got a few comments from people who thought that I was being a little too harsh, and they were saying, well, there's no problem with donating sperm, sperm banks are really expensive, and I want to make it really clear to them and to Kyle that donating sperm and being a known sperm donor, that's one thing, and then there's everything else wrong with Kyle. The coercion, the manipulation, the lying about the rates of natural insemination, how weird he seems all the time, touching his junk in public, everything that I've been talking about in these videos, that's all the stuff I'm critiquing. I'm not saying that just because you're a known sperm donor, then you're a creepy weirdo. That's not the main issue here. So for Kyle to now keep wrapping those two things together and saying, well, Annie doesn't like that I'm having sex with these women. Wow, she just can't accept who I am and my life's purpose. Like, no, you can separate those two out. And to say that those are the same thing is another example of manipulative behavior. This isn't, my wife doesn't let me watch football on the weekends anymore. She doesn't accept me for who I am. This is about having sexual intercourse with another woman, spreading your genetics across the world. Children, man, this is important. Hey, do you think you could stop yelling at me whenever we have a fight? What do you mean? Yelling is just how I express myself. You're not accepting me for who I am. Like, no, that's ridiculous. That's all I got for today's video. Let me know what you thought about Creepy Kyle in the comments down below. And also let me know, do you think Creepy Kyle or Vile Kyle sounds better? A big thank you to all of you channel members for helping support this channel and helping me grow as a creator, with an extra special thank you to Nancy Jones for being a producer of this channel. And until next time, I'll see you later.